to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka, and Bitcoin and the entire industry is bleeding red based on the tariff wars, I'm going to be dubbing it, between Canada, US, Mexico, and China. Bitcoin was as low as $90,000, dropping 12%. $12,000 earlier today. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go through our market watch, Bitcoin technical analysis, and also on today's show, CryptoQuant CEO Kiyosaki says Bitcoin bull market isn't over, reveals 5-year forecast for altcoins. Also, Michael Saylor explains why a Bitcoin hardware wallet is essential for financial freedom. Yes, sir. And our feature story of today, Trump's trade war will send BTC price violently higher, says analyst. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is February 2nd, 2025, and well, we've got tariff wars. Just about 10 days into Trump's inauguration. Everything bleeding in the red today in terms of the crypto market. We have some of the main players. Bitcoin was down about 8% at one point to $90,000 even. We have Ethereum down 20%, Solana down 10%, XRP down 25%, Doge 25%, which brings us into our technical analysis. Let's get right into it. As mentioned, everything's in the red. We've gone through it. 95 currently, Bitcoin at 94,300, down 6.5%. Ethereum down 20% at $2,500. Buy the dip opportunity for everybody. I bought the dip earlier. Solana down 10% at $194. XRP down 23% at $223. Doge 24% at 23 cents. Everything's taking a hit today. It kind of started yesterday after what I would call a trade war. It was just certainly assumed by Donald Trump that he would hit Canada and Mexico with tariffs, and they would just take the tariffs and try to negotiate something instead. The Canadian Prime Minister last night announced a counter tariff of the exact same amount, 25%. China announced that they will be bringing this into court because it's not legal. And just I understand that China now has canceled its contracts for the Panama Canal. So let's see how this plays out tomorrow. I also heard speculation, and it was just in Instagram, and I'm not going to trust that. I was trying to scour the news feeds to find if this was accurate, that China is going to pose a 100% tariff on the U.S. for precious metals. But again, I'm not going to speculate anything until I see real facts on it. Into our Bitcoin bubbles for the day. Everything's in the red. Somehow Fartcoin has escaped with a 15% gain. Everything else is almost equally in the red here. And we have all small circles, but if you look closely at these small circles, it's all because they're evenly down. And they're evenly down Algo 25%, Algorand, Pepe down 25%, XRP 22%, Doge 23%, Pengu, I'm not surprised about that, 23%, XDC 27%, Near Protocol 27%, Shiba Inu 25%, XLM 22%, everything bleeding. And if we flip into the weekly, even more redness. We have the big loser, the Pengu at 55% down for the week. Pepe down 32% for the week. Algorand 30% for the week. XRP down 26% for the week. Sui 25%. Some big players, in the top 10 in terms of market cap, down quite a bit. Ethereum down 21% for the week. And if we zoom out to the monthly, we really only have one gainer, and that's the XCN. For the month, up 850%. But certainly for the day, it's also way down like everything else. For the month, Gala down 55%, TIA 50%, Virtual 70%, Doge 40%, Pengu 71%. And the list goes on. Shiba down 46%. Jasmy 42%. Kind of a sad day. It was unexpected that crypto would respond this way. We also have the Nikkei. Japanese markets have already opened, and they are down over 2% to open. So I expect the traditional financial markets all to have a bit of a dip, and it is certainly a buy the dip opportunity. If you guys have some crappy fiat money kicking around, it might be a good time to get into some crypto. If you were waiting on it and thought maybe it was too expensive, well, XRP down 50% for the month, 40% Doge, and so on. I would highly recommend Bitcoin personally. It's going to be your most stable and long-lasting investment. Let's move into our Bitcoin market cap watch. And we have a Bitcoin currently at $1.87 trillion, down 6% from yesterday. Ethereum market cap, 300 billion, down 20% from yesterday. Tether holding steady at 139 billion. XRP down 22% from yesterday. Its market cap at 129 billion. Currently Solana down 8% from yesterday. Sitting at $95 billion. Doge down 23% from yesterday's market cap, sitting at $35 trillion. Cardano in the number 9 position, $22.5 billion, down 27%. Syscoin has flipped Tron, but both of them are way down. Syscoin down 27%, and that actually can't be right because I'm seeing the market cap here. I'm not sure how that's working. Market cap on the Syscoin is 49 billion. Market cap on Tron is 18 billion, so I'm not quite sure why that's showing up the way it is. Let me refresh. Yeah, that's showing correctly now. Tron's still at number 10. Let's go into our Bitcoin dominance. So we have a current total market cap of 3 trillion. That's about over $200 billion less than yesterday. Bitcoin market dominance up about 3% from yesterday, currently at 62.5%, coming close to 2/3 of all crypto in Bitcoin. Ethereum down, way down to 10% even of the total crypto market cap. XRP also down. It was at 5%, now it's at 4.32%. Solana holding steady at 3% of the total market dominance. Let's get into our crypto fear and greed index, and we haven't seen neutral in a long time. Currently we are in a 44 neutral state, Yesterday also 60 neutral, and last week a 71 in greed. So I haven't seen anything in neutral for a long, long time. It's been a good month, couple months probably, and 44 way down. So generally, as we've talked about before, when this number is low, you can expect a pump. And when this number is very high, like in extreme greed, then you can expect a bit of a pullback. This was all a very sudden move. Let's go into our halving countdown. We have approximately 913 days until the next Bitcoin halving. According to this, it's 2027 August. But the average time is probably what we're looking at to the right, 1165 days. There are currently 167,944 Bitcoin left to mine until the next halving, and until the year 2140, where we have the final Bitcoin mined. There are 1,181,075 Bitcoin left to mine. And now, according to this, the price of Bitcoin is already up to 97. Let's refresh here. And no, that's the other page is the one that needs refreshing. Let's flip into our total market cap by company, and let's refresh this here so we can have the most accurate information. Gold down from 19 trillion to 18.8 trillion. Apple sitting at 3 in the number 2 position at 3.5 trillion. Microsoft number 3, 3 trillion. Nvidia 2.9 trillion, Google 2.5 trillion, Amazon 2.499, just behind Google. Bitcoin still sitting in the number 7 position at 1.868 trillion, a little bit about 100 billion ahead of Saudi Aramco at number 8 position. Silver at number 9, 1.78 trillion. Followed by Meta at 1.75 trillion and Tesla at 1.3. And you can currently get 1,034 Satoshis for one fiat US dollar. I actually didn't think we were ever going to see more than 1,000 Satoshis per US dollars again, but here it is, surprise, surprise. And into our US national debt clock. It is up approximately $3 to $4 billion from yesterday, currently at 36,431 billion. That equates to $107,089 per citizen and $323,046 per US taxpayer. Big chunk. Huge chunk of debt. And I believe this is one of the reasons Trump is doing this. We are going to get into depth a little bit later on in one of our stories, specifically based on the future debt scenario with the U.S. Let's get right into our story. Speaking of our first story of the day, we have CryptoQuant CEO Kiyosaki, who says Bitcoin bull market isn't over, reveals 5-year forecast for altcoins. The chief executive of a prominent crypto analytics firm believes that the Bitcoin bull market has enough fuel to witness more rallies. And I agree with that. CryptoQuant CEO Kiyosaki tells his 401,000 followers on social media platform X that demand for Bitcoin spot market exchange traded funds ETFs is still going strong, indicating that deep-pocketed investors are positioning for more BTC rallies. Key notes that he thinks BTC will print a market cycle top once demand for Bitcoin ETFs tapers off. The Bitcoin bull cycle isn't over, he says. The buying engine for the paper Bitcoin is still running. In 2021, the downturn came 2 months after the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust inflows dried up. No need to rush. calling the cycle top until ETFs, MicroStrategy, and institutional buying slows down. And here he has a chart of that. In 2021, we see the slowdown began in, so the year of the halving was 2020, and the year after the halving, 2021, it looks like the buying kind of slowed down in January, but historically speaking, the peak price was hit in 2021 in April. Then there was a dip, and then again, the final peak price, cycle price, was in October. So we are seeing now in 2025, they're comparing the GBTC buying in 2021 to the ETF buying in 2025. And as we see here, there currently is no peak. We're still on our way up. At the time of writing, Bitcoin's trading at 99,000, not anymore. Turning to altcoins, Key believes that investors will see alts in a different light in 5 years. According to the analyst, most altcoins will stop serving as speculative assets, as he believes investors will value them based on their earnings, much like how they value stocks. The era of altcoins existing solely as a measure of internet attention span will be over within 5 years. Meme coins will persist as a gambling product. Beyond those, altcoins that are actually building will evolve into employment contracts for internet knowledge workers. It is undeniable future that these altcoins will evolve into an internet economic framework that enables compensation for the value generated in the process of information creation, distribution, and acquisition. So he's basically saying that the ones that hold some kind of utility and value, where programmers are building their applications on these things, those are going to be valuable. The others, like the meme coins and the ultimate crap coins, will have no value whatsoever, and it'll just be on a speculative kind of event-based pricing. And I can agree with pretty much everything this analyst is saying. He does make some good points about the altcoins, and he does make some fair points about Bitcoin as well. Once MicroStrategy stops buying, and BlackRock stops buying, and the huge ETF companies stop buying, then things might taper off. But I'm not sure how much they will taper off, because when we look at Michael Saylor, he keeps buying literally every Monday, and I can pretty much guarantee he's going to be buying the dip tomorrow. And here he has a story also explaining that Bitcoin is important, and he explains why a Bitcoin hardware wallet is essential for financial freedom, and which is great because he's learned more about Bitcoin, and now he knows that a hardware wallet is definitely the way to go. With financial uncertainty and increasing government control over banking systems, self-custody of a Bitcoin has never been more important. A hardware wallet ensures that you own your private keys and protects your assets from third-party risks. Michael Saylor warns how governments can seize funds overnight. Obama compared Bitcoin wallets to a Swiss bank account in your pocket. Coin Codex picks Ledger as the best Bitcoin wallet. Now, not sure about that. Let's explore why storing Bitcoin securely is a must in today's financial landscape. Hardware wallets manufactured by Ledger are widely regarded as the safest, most reliable way to store Bitcoin and other crypto assets. As long as the seed phrase storage is handled with care, there is no way that a malicious actor or software could endanger the safety of your crypto. Michael Saylor, I lost 90% of my money overnight. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, Saylor shared a shocking personal experience of government asset seizure in Argentina. I had $1 million in a bank in Argentina 20 years ago. It was in US dollars. The peso was 1 to the dollar. the Argentine government sent a memo to the banks, forcibly converted everybody's dollars to pesos, and then forcibly devalued the peso 10 for 1. I woke up the next morning and I had $100,000. So he went from $1 million to $100,000 overnight. 90% of his wealth was gone with no law, no military intervention, just a simple fax to the banks. Shit. Saylor used this example to highlight Bitcoin's unique protection against confiscation. Now, how hard would it be to take all the property of everybody in the country with Bitcoin? You have to go arrest 60 million people and sweep them all in jail for 90 days. It's a billion times harder. With Bitcoin, only you control your private keys unless you give them to an exchange or a third party. Yeah, he's bang on with that. Not your keys, not your cheese, folks. Definitely you want to, if you have any kind of substantial amount in Bitcoin, you definitely want to put it in a hardware wallet. And maybe one of these episodes we will go through how to do that. It's not very complicated. If you're savvy enough to, buy crypto on an exchange, then you're savvy enough to transfer it into a crypto wallet. The hardest part, to be honest, is, buying it and getting it home, and then the fees that you incur to transfer your money out of the exchange, but it's totally worth it. So, speaking of Bitcoin and getting into the tariff situation, we saw that things were definitely dumping, and the price is currently still at 94,837, down 5% for Bitcoin. However, some experts think that the trade war will actually be good for Bitcoin, and I do kind of agree with this, because you would expect that during times like these that people would be wanting to put their money in a safe haven like gold, like silver, like Bitcoin. So in our story, Trump's trade war will send BTC price violently higher, says analyst. This is undoubtedly my highest conviction macro trade for the year, Bitwise executive and analyst Jeff Park wrote on social media. U.S. President Donald Trump's trade tariffs will send Bitcoin prices violently higher in the long term due to a weakening of the U.S. dollar in global currency markets and lower yields on U.S. government securities, Jeff Park, head of Alpha Strategies at financial services firm Bitwise, argued. According to the analyst, tariffs are being pushed to achieve the end goal of weakening the U.S. dollar in international trade to correct trade imbalances and make U.S. exports more attractive. So the way it goes with every country is, if you have a cheap currency, cheap dollar, then it's cheaper for other countries to buy your goods. For example, right now the U.S. and the euro are almost 1 for 1, same value. The euro compared to the Canadian dollar, or the U.S. compared to the Canadian dollar, I think the Canadian dollar is about 67 cents right now. So for either the Europeans or the U.S. to buy things from Canada, it's almost at 50% off. So what the article is saying so far is that the U.S. can also weaken their currency, and therefore they'll be more attractive on the global trade, product and international trade. So if people can get the same thing they're paying $1 for now, if they can get it for 75 cents, well, they're going to be more attractive, and people are going to buy more things from the States. They're going to import more from them. Park said that the Plaza Accord 2.0 is coming, referencing the Plaza Accord in 1985, a reference to a 1985 agreement between the United States, Japan, West Germany, France, and the UK to weaken the US dollar. The analyst added that the tariffs will cause increased inflation that will be disproportionately felt by U.S. trading partners and result in further currency debasement worldwide that will cause the citizens of those countries to seek alternative stores of value like Bitcoin. So, it will cause further currency debasement. So the rest of the countries, and probably even the U.S., will have to print more money, effectively weakening their own currency to allow them to be more attractive in international trade. So let's read the article from... So for 2025, this is undoubtedly my highest conviction macro trade for the year. Plaza Accord 2.0 is coming. Bookmark this and revisit as the financial war unravels, sending Bitcoin violently higher. To understand tariffs today, there are two contexts you have to frame the conversation in. One, the curse of the Triffin dilemma, and two, Trump's personal goals. By analyzing both, the end game becomes clear. Tariffs might be just a temporary tool, but the permanent conclusion is that Bitcoin is not only going higher, but faster. First, the Triffin dilemma. The US dollar status as a reserve currency gives the US what is called an exorbitant privilege in the financial transactions and trade, and it has a few implications. The dollar is structurally overvalued due to its need to be held as reserves by other countries in a price inelastic manner. The U.S. has to run a persistent trade balance deficit to supply the world with those dollars. And, number three, the U.S. government therefore can borrow persistently cheaper than it should be able to. The U.S. wants to keep number three, but rid number one and number two. But how? Enter tariffs. So the U.S. wants to borrow persistently cheaper than it should be able to. So they want to keep that, but they want to rid themselves of number one and number two. Number one, the dollar is structurally overvalued to its need to be held as a reserve by other countries in a price inelastic manner. So it doesn't matter what the price is or what the demand is, they have to hold it. So they want to rid themselves of that, and they want to rid themselves of the U.S. has to run a persistent trade balance deficit to supply the world with those dollars. So they want to get rid themselves of that as well. So effectively, they import more goods than they export, leading to this trade balance, trade deficit. So if they devalue their dollar, then more people will buy from them, hence equaling out this trade deficit. But then number three, they want the U.S. government can borrow persistently cheaper than it should be able to. So they want to keep number three. Recognize that tariffs are often a temporary negotiation tool to achieve a goal. The ultimate goal is to seek a multilateral agreement to weaken the dollar, especially a Plaza Accord 2.0. One hypothetical way this could happen is that the U.S. would explicitly specify that countries have to reduce their dollar reserves, while also requiring them to shift the duration of the UST holding, U.S. Treasury holding, further out. In other words, Trump is trying to find a way to implement a YCC and not a YCC strategy within the realms of the executive branch. No doubt, Besant is on board, recognizing that he was left a bag of trash by Yellen, whose legacy will have been the near permanent impairment of the Treasury's ability to manage duration by doubling the proportion of debt financing to T-bills, adding fake liquidity, exposing the U.S. to the mercy of the whims of the refinancing idiotically, while interest rates were beginning to rise. The cost to U.S. taxpayers here cannot be understated. As a result, the U.S. is charting a path to achieve the holy grail of flat alchemy, lower dollar and lower yield. This brings me to the second point. I have shared before that Trump's number one goal is to lower the 10-year rate. The reason being is that his own bags depend upon it. Real estate. His obsession with Powell cutting short-term rates, then realizing it's not working, is the catalyst. Never doubt the uncomplicated incentives of the transparently profit-motivated and align yourself next to him. Mark my words, the 10-year is going to go down, whatever it takes. The asset to own, therefore, is Bitcoin. In a world of weaker dollar, weaker U.S. rates, something broken pundits will tell you it is impossible because they can't model statecraft. Risk assets in the U.S. will fly through the roof beyond your wildest imagination, for it is likely a giant tax cut will have to accompany the higher costs borne by the loss of comparative advantage. The tariffs costs, most likely through higher inflation, will be shared by both U.S. and trade partners, but the relative impact will be much heavier on foreigners. These countries then will have to find a way to fend off their weak growth issues, leading to stimulating the economy through monetary and fiscal policies. So basically, the other countries will end up, they'll have to print more money. You know, to make a long story short, it all is going to go back to the money printer. Let's continue reading here. Trump tariffs send crypto markets plummeting. Yeah, we know all about that. So this article, it's a little complicated, and they don't make it as clear as we would like. But ultimately, it seems to me that the tariffs are done, so everybody's going to falter. The U.S. is doing it to create a false trade positive. So as the tariffs come into play, the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar and the Mexican peso are all going to tank. And I saw it already happening today. When the price of these currencies go down, it's going to make their exports more attractive. When their exports become more attractive, then that is going to create, it's going to put their import-export ratio into balance, because right now the States is importing more than they're exporting, and they don't want that to be the case. The other situation here is that Trump, they say in this article that no matter what, he wants the 10-year, and they don't say what, but I assume it's the 10-year bond to go up. So they're basically, he's trying to force interest rate cuts, but they refuse his interest rate cuts. So he's going to instead force a different way he wants to lower the 10-year rate. Pardon me. That makes more sense. I was a little confused. Yeah, so if the interest rate is lower, the bond rate is lower. So he wants that to go down. So therefore, they can then borrow more money. Right? Cheaper interest rates, cheaper to borrow money. Also, printing more money then will also stimulate the economy. So this seems like a big debasement scheme. Not really different than what's gone on in the past. A little bit accelerated in this time, done specifically with tariffs. So pretty interesting what their take on this is. I don't disagree. I just was finding it difficult to understand why. I mean, they say, we mentioned this yesterday, they say that we're putting the tariffs because of fentanyl, we're putting the tariffs, fentanyl coming across the border, and also illegal immigrants coming over the border. But it just didn't seem equal when it came to the fentanyl and the immigration coming over the Mexican border and over the Canadian border. And then on top of that, what does China's have to do with it? Well, they're sending the fentanyl. Now, it could be that these are facts, and they are facts, right? But I can kind of see it just being used as an excuse to go through this plan, as per this article, to weaken the currency, to allow more exporting of their products and less importing of other products, thusly creating this balance in their trade. The other countries will still need to base their international trade on the US dollar. So they're still going to need dollars. They'll be worth less. So therefore, they'll need more money to buy more US dollars because it's worth less. So hopefully I did an okay job of explaining it. The article was nice to go through it. I read it a couple times, but it's still not really put in layman's terms or very understandable language for the normal person to understand. But I do kind of get the gist of it, and after reading that, I do see a little bit more reasoning why these tariffs might have gone into place. I don't see why Canada, created these retaliatory tariffs. They're playing tough, and clearly they don't want these tariffs. North America has the new NAFTA deal that was created in Trump's previous term in 2016 to 2020. There was a NAFTA that was around, North American Free Trade Agreement, that was around kind of like the Euro has, right? For decades, and Trump wasn't happy with how it played out for the states, so they renegotiated it, and now clearly still not happy, or with these ulterior motives, they've gone through and made more changes. My goal here is to help everybody with their financial literacy, and I want you guys to all remember that money is abundant and money is everywhere, and time is what's scarce. So spend your time wisely, everybody, and spend less than what you earn. Don't pay interest to these banks. Try and do everything with the money you earn, not the bank's money. If you suddenly make more money, save more money. Don't start spending more money. If you start saving when you're young and investing when you're young, you should be able to retire in your early 40s and not when you're 65 or 75 when you're too old to be able to do things you love. And if you have a great idea, please start that idea today, even if you're not ready, and things will slowly come together, and it will become a success, even if there's a few hiccups along the way. If you found this stream enjoyable, please share, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next stream, folks. Thanks for joining Crypto News Global. Have a good night.